A Plaguelands media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you something a little bit different today, so cheers. Now, it is coming towards the end of 2024. I've been reading books, I've reviewing books. You little Plaguelandians out there that have been watching the channel kind of already know this. And it seems like a lot of booktubers these days seem to be putting out their top 10 list, top 10 best authors, top 10 best books of 2024, top 10 worst books of 2024, and all of that. And I was thinking about doing a top 10 favorite books of all time, but it keeps fluctuating as I read more and more books this year. So I thought I'd do something a little different. Now, what I tend to do is I will read a book, I will review it for the channel, and once it is reviewed, I take it to my office and I put it in a cardboard box, and students, not just my students, but they can tell their friends and their friends will come. Students are free to come into my office and basically go through the box and take whatever books that they want. We get a lot of international students where I work, and books can be quite expensive, and while they love reading, they don't necessarily have the funds to go out and buy books. So my view is if they want to take a book that I've read and reviewed, they are more than happy to do that. I'm quite happy to share it with them. This list, however, is going to be on the books and primarily book series that I will never, ever get rid of, that I am going to keep for absolutely as long as I possibly can. I have 10 books or book series on this list, and I'll explain why they are books that I am going to keep. So, let's get straight into this with the next episode of
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
Straight up front, I'm going to say that some of these book series I am going to not get rid of purely for sentimental reasons. And you are going to find that the genres here are really, if you've watched this channel enough, you know, are primarily my two favorite genres, which are horror and fantasy. I would have kept some sci-fi on here, primarily my Star Wars novels, but they are kind of getting a little bit out of hand, and I have given a few of them away to students who have shown me a decided interest in the Star Wars IP. So these are primarily horror and fantasy. And we're going to get straight into, we're going to go from number 10 to number 1. And number 10 is, of course, Conan by Robert E. Howard. You know what? I'm just going to go turn the light on so you can get a better look at these covers. All right. It might be a bit glary, but that's okay. So this is the Broadsword Legacy collection of Conan stories by Robert E. Howard. And this is printed to be read in the order that they were intended. Not necessarily the order that Robert E. Howard wrote them in, but the order in which they should be read to chronologically follow the adventures of Conan the Barbarian. While not the original sword and sorcery stories, that distinction goes to Fritz Lieber's Farfid and the Grey Mouser. I am a huge fan of Conan, so any Conan books that I get are going to be kept in the collection. That includes some of the older novels by authors like Robert Jordan, who wrote The Wheel of Time, and a few others. That includes this trilogy from the Age of Conan, which was the video game. That includes the newer Conan novels, such as Conan City of the Dead and Cult of the Obsidian Moon. And I'm even going to lump in here Red Sonja. Pardon me. So this is the latest Red Sonja novel by Gail Simone, who actually worked on the Red Sonja comic book. She's a comic book writer first and foremost, and this is her first novel. Terrible cover, but, you know, what can you do? Absolutely love Conan, the comic books, the films, the short stories. Basically anything by Robert E. Howard I will keep. That includes Cull of Atlantis and his other kind of things, Solomon Kane and things along those lines. But Conan primarily is the character that I absolutely love the most from Robert E. Howard. Moving on to number 9, we're going sentimental now. And this is the Tom Clancy novels, the Jack Ryan novels, Rainbow Six, and after Tom Clancy passed away, all of the ones that deal with Jack Ryan Jr. and whatnot. Now, I had pretty much all of these and had to kind of get rid of them. So I'm rebuilding my collection. Now, why am I keeping the Tom Clancy novels? Quite simply, when I was growing up, there was a point in my early teens. My father and I really didn't get along that well. It wasn't like a bad relationship. We just had nothing to talk about. I was into Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy stuff. He was reading other stuff and watching sports and things that I really wasn't interested in. And he absolutely loved Tom Clancy novels. So I picked this up one day and I thought, I'll read this and see what all the fuss is about, and absolutely loved it. I've read every Tom Clancy novel, I think, up until about, and Tom Clancy IP novel, up until about 2022. What I would usually do after I moved to South Korea was get the latest Tom Clancy books as they came out, and then whenever I went back to Australia, I'd just bring them all back and give them to Dad, and then Dad would read them and things like that. So these books really have a significant place for me, and the stories are fucking fantastic. Like, I really love this spy, espionage, CIA kind of stuff. Really enjoyed The Hunt for Red October, Cardinal and the Kremlin, Patriot Games was fantastic, Clear and Present Danger. All of these books are just a lot of fun, very technical, but in a really, really good way. So that is why I will not be getting rid of any of my Tom Clancy novels in the future. Now, the next one is just a trilogy, but it is a trilogy from an IP that I absolutely love. Now, for some reason, I can't find the first volume of this. It's somewhere in there. I don't know. But this is the Secrets of Power. This is the first trilogy of the Shadowrun books. They're now called the Shadowrun Legends books. And it was Never Deal with a Dragon, Choose Your Enemies Carefully, and Find Your Own Truth. And you can see the covers there are fucking phenomenal. Shadowrun is a tabletop RPG where set in Seattle. Magic has come back into the world. People have started transforming into trolls and dwarves and elves and all that kind of stuff. And the players in the tabletop role-playing game are basically espionage people for hire. So someone will hire you to go and steal something from a corporation or do something. There's shady characters doing shady shit with guns and magic and cybernetic upgrades and all that fucking cool stuff. And the first trilogy of these novels, The Secrets of Power, is freaking amazing. It deals with the dragon Dunkelzahn and his rise to the presidency and then assassination. And it is just a roller coaster ride from book 1 to book 3. And there is never a dull moment. It starts out up here and then it just fucking goes to up here. So this trilogy, I will never get rid of. I have read a lot of the newer Shadowrun books and a lot of the older Shadowrun books, and I always have students that are interested in cyberpunk and things like that, and I'm quite happy to pass these books on to them so they can experience the Shadowrun world for themselves. But this original trilogy, I'm keeping. It's a keeper. I'm not getting rid of it. So what? That was 8. Moving on to number 7. Number 7 is a horror series, and that is Brian Lumley's Necroscope. Necroscope is about this kid whose mother is killed by a psychic spy from Russia. He has these abilities, and he works with this British paranormal intelligence agency. The psychic spy that killed his mother has teamed up with this interdimensional vampire, and it becomes this all-out kind of psychic battle as Harry is trying to work out exactly how his abilities kind of work and what he can do. And I have like book 1 and book 2 and book 3 right here, but there are, I believe, 5 books in the series, and there are different series in this, and it's great. It's gory, it's disgusting. It's Brian Lumley at his absolute finest as a horror author. And it's the world itself that I fell in love with when I was at university. My friends and I used to read these and pass them around to one another. Just a really, really fun horror series that kind of involves spies and espionage, but within, at the time, what was kind of modern day. Okay, so that was 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. 6 is an entire series of books, the Tales of the Otori. This first one was called Across the Nightingale Floor, but you can see the title has been kind of wiped away because my mother read this book so often. And I have all of the series back there on the shelf. Now, why am I keeping this? This is one of my mother's favorite book series. I've read the first one. I haven't read any of the rest in the series, which I will. But this is basically an alternative Japanese fantasy book, revenge story. Very well written, very easy to get into, and the characterization is absolutely phenomenal. But, like I said, I've only read this book. And the reason I'm keeping these books, again, my mother's favorite book series. So, we'll not be getting rid of these. I have them all in hardcover because she insisted on getting them when they first came out. We would go up to Kmart, and if there'd be a new one, she'd grab it straight away. So, they are keepers. They are not going anywhere. They are sticking around. Number 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, number 5. Joe R. Lansdale's Driving to Geronimo's Grave and Other Stories. Now, I have given away to students some Joe R. Lansdale novels. I'm not going to keep every Joe R. Lansdale novel. I think he is an important American author that not a lot of people give him enough credit. His stories are weird, wild. He dabbles in horror. He dabbles in sci-fi. He dabbles in westerns. A whole kind of gamut of different genres that he, I wouldn't say has mastered, but has made entertaining and weird enough to put the Joe R. Lansdale brand on it. Some of my favorites being Bubba Hotep, which sees Elvis and a black JFK in a nursing home together fighting an Egyptian mummy. And yes, it's as fucking awesome as it sounds. The Drive-In trilogy was just freaking disgustingly awesome. But this is a collection of short stories. Now, his short story collections are really, really good. So why am I keeping this one? I'm keeping this one because I purchased it not actually knowing that this was a limited edition run. And he has actually signed the copy of it. So that is why I am keeping this book, because, hey, signed by Joe R. Lansdale. What more could you freaking want? Great book as well. Really, really cool book, by the way. Number 4, another sentimental one. Let me just get some dust off the side there. Now, ever since I was in the 6th grade, I have been a huge fan of horror novels. In the 6th grade, I was reading things like Whitley Strieber's The Night Church, which actually got confiscated by a substitute teacher. Funny story, which I might tell you if I ever get around to reading and reviewing it. When I was in the 7th grade, my mother went to the Katoomba Public Library and she borrowed a novel and she started reading it and she said, I don't really like this, but Hugh, you might enjoy this one. And that book was Richard Lehman, Darkness, Tell Us, which I sat down and read and absolutely freaking loved. Now, there is a lot of divisiveness among Richard Lehman fans and haters. A lot of people say his writing style is sloppy and amateurish. Yes, it is. A lot of people say his characterization of women is misogynistic. Yes, it is. Does that make the stories any less fun? No, not at all. You've got to read it from the kind of time frame that it was written in. Now, Darkness Tell Us is just about a group of kids that are having a party at a teacher's place and they find a Ouija board and the spirit in the Ouija board tells them that there's treasure in this mountain and they decide, hey, let's go up there to the mountain and see if we can find the treasure, and then bad hillbilly shit fucking happens to them. That's pretty much the plot of this book. It's not the best written book in the world. It's not even the best Richard Lehman novel in the world. But again, for sentimental reasons, this one's a keeper for me because this got me into Richard Lehman and I have read every single Richard Lehman novel that has ever been published. And I absolutely loved every one of them. I do actually give my Richard Lehman novels away to students. They seem to enjoy, some of them really enjoy horror, and I'm like, if you enjoy trashy garbage horror, this is the book for you. They get really excited about it. So that is why Darkness Tell Us is coming in at number 4 of my books that I will never get rid of. Now, this one is a book series, okay? So kind of keep that in mind, and it's based primarily on the actual author of the book series. So I'm talking about R.A. Salvatore and his Forgotten Realms novels, which began with the Crystal Shard, Streams of Silver, and the Halfling's Gem, which I have in this 25th edition anniversary copy. I've been trying to find more of these copies because I kind of love the idea of them. Drizzt Do'Urden is possibly the most famous Forgotten Realms character next to Elminster of Shadowdale. And he is a dark elf that fled Menzoberranzan, befriended a dwarf by the name of Brunor Battlehammer. Brunor had adopted a barbarian child called Wulfgar. He had an adopted daughter called Catti-brie, and there is a halfling called Regis, and they go off on adventures and fight monsters and do all that kind of fucking cool Advanced Dungeons & Dragons fancy kind of shit. He has the Homeland, Exile, and Sojourn, the prequel trilogy to that, which explores the life of Drizzt Do'Urden. I have pretty much every other Drizzt Do'Urden book here up to a certain point. And then I'm kind of trying to get my hands on it. I even have his collector's edition of the Cleric Quintet, which basically follows the scholar priest Cadley, who is a character in one of the later Drizzt books, kind of meets up with him, and they team up for something. I'm just trying to collect my R.A. Salvatore series again, just because I love the novels so much that I I just want to kind of read them and review them. Now, on top of the R.A. Salvatore, I do have one trilogy of books that I am never getting rid of from the Forgotten Realms, and that is the Avatar trilogy, which is Shadowdale, Tantris, and Waterdeep. Now, the reason I'm not getting rid of these books is because they are actually quite important. They are important in that they were written to bridge the gap between Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition. They are an absolutely phenomenal series where the gods have been stripped of their power and are now mortals on the world of Faerun, and they have to kind of work out who stole the Tablets of Fate and try to get kind of all of their powers back. And I'm just not going to get rid of them because they are really hard to find these days. It was really difficult to track some of these books down. And I just love the trilogy so much that it's one that I will go back and reread over and over again. Okay. Let's move some of this so I can bring in number 2. Again, this is a Dungeons and Dragons, but this is Dragonlance. The Chronicles, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Dragons of Winter Night, Dragons of Spring Dawning, Legends, Time of the Twins, War of the Twins, and Test of the Twins, going up to 2nd generation, dealing with the children of the main characters from the first 2 trilogies. And then we have Dragons of Summer Flame, and then the War of Souls, and even the newest one, Dragons of Deceit and whatnot. Now, I'm only keeping the Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman Dragonlance novels, although I do have a lot of the ones written by other authors, like Douglas Niles and things like that, which are fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love them. But again, if I kept them, there's not going to be enough room. So I'm sticking with the original Chronicles, Legends, and the books that kind of followed those ones that deal with the main characters of Tanis, Caraman, Raistlin, Sturm, Lorana, Goldmoon, Riverwind, Flint, Tasselhoff, Kithiara, Gilthanas, just all of the main characters. Now, if I had physical copies of the Harper's series or the Ravenloft novels, yes, they would be on the list here as well. But I don't. I only have them in ebook form because, again, really hard to kind of buy without bursting the bank. Now, the number 1 book series that I will never get rid of is the Raymond E. Feist novels. Starting with Magician, book 1 of the Rift War trilogy, Silverthorn, A Darkness of Sethanon, which I have hardcover signed. I found in a secondhand bookstore. Any of the books that Raymond E. Feist wrote with other people, such as the Empire trilogy with Jenny Wirtz, or the books like Honored Enemy and Murder in Lamut and things like that, Jimmy the Hand, that he wrote with authors like Joel Rosenberg, who is, again, another one of my favorite fantasy authors of all time. Don't have the physical copies of his novels, however. The Betrayal at Krondor, The Betrayal of Krondor, The Assassins, Krondor, Tear of the Gods, which I'm looking at right here. The King's Buccaneer, Prince of the Blood, the Conclave of Shadows trilogy, the Serpent War, the 4 books in the Serpent War saga. These will never leave my possession because Raymond E. Feist is, without a doubt, my favorite fantasy author of all time. This book, as you can see, has been battered and everything. This is actually one of the first fantasy books I encouraged my wife to read, and she absolutely loved it. Now, to get this book, you have to buy it in 2 editions, Master and Apprentice and Master. But this is the kind of original one that came in the huge fucking... How many pages is this? Like 681 pages long. There's just something about his writing style. There's something about his world building I won't even get rid of King of Ashes, Queen of Furies, Queen of Storms, Master of Furies, the latest trilogy. I've even got A Darkness Returns, which ties those that trilogy and the Midkemia books in together. I'm not getting rid of them. There's just absolutely no way that I'm parting with my Raymond E. Feist collection, and I will reread his books until the day I freaking die. I absolutely love them that much. If you haven't read Raymond E. Feist, I urge you to go out there and to pick up a copy of Magician or Magician Apprentice, Magician Master, and just sit down with it and read it, because you are not going to be disappointed. It's basically an invasion of this European medieval fantasy world of Midkemia by an almost kind of Asian-based civilization from another dimension that come through. But at the same time, there's magic. There's kind of like this link to these dragon gods. There's demons. There's dark elves. There's all kinds of stuff happening. And it's just really an absolute blast to read. Pick up any Raymond E. Feist novel. You are not going to be disappointed. Now, with that said, I want to do some honorable mentions. Primarily, any books written by David Gemmell. This is the John Shanow trilogy, which is Wolf in Shadow, The Last Guardian, and Bloodstone. But David Gemmell is an author that I was introduced to last year by my Plaguelands media cohort, Dr. Luke Carman. I read Legend, absolutely loved it. Absolutely love Legend, and was trying to get more David Gemmell books. Unfortunately, I just don't have the room for them. Paul Tremblay, I read The Cabin at the End of the World. I have a few more Paul Tremblay novels around here. I'm looking at Horror Movie right here, and I believe I have the Pallbearers Club down there. I love Paul Tremblay, but again, I need to kind of cut down the collection, and so Paul Tremblay novels I will give away to students. I'm sure students will absolutely love them. Same with Stephen King, same with Dean Koontz, same with Bentley Little. These are all authors that I would love to get collections for. Do not have the space for them. So, with that said, those are my top 10 of books and book series that I will never part with, that I'm keeping, and that I'm going to grow as well, because I still need a few more Raymond E. Feist books in the series. And I still need a few more R.A. Salvatore books. And of course, they are bringing out Conan novels all the time. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you had a fantastic, or I hope you have, I should say, a fantastic holiday. Enjoy it with friends and family. Most importantly, eat a lot. Drink a lot. Read a fucking book, people.